Okay, so Interstellar has two modes that it goes through. Mode 1, Mode 2. Holy crap!
The laser is 'cause I like sci-fi. Dude is 'cause I am a rad guy. 99 is 'cause I like Wayne Gretzky. That's why I'm lazy dude 99. Laser time and we're gonna do a review. Yes, we're gonna review. Let's talk about movies and comics too. Let's all go watch a
Hey everybody, I'm LaserDude99. Welcome to another LaserDude review. So, Interstellar, directed by Christopher Nolan, starring Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, and Michael Caine. So, this is a movie about, I don't know what year it is, they don't specifically say. Far into the future, the Earth is dying off. This disease known as blight has killed off most of the food source, and the only thing left on this planet is corn. But the Earth is dying, and it won't be able to even support corn much longer, and humanity is on the brink of destruction. So we get this guy named Coop, and he ends up at NASA, and they say, we have a plan to save everyone. We need you to go through this wormhole, find us a suitable planet to live on, and then we'll be able to save everyone. And then Coop has a hard time leaving his daughter behind, and there's emotions going, and they go up into space, and sci-fi hijinks ensue, and that's the story of Interstellar. This is, of course, the movie directed by Christopher Nolan, and this was probably the movie I was looking forward to the most this year. You know, besides all the superhero stuff earlier in the year, I was like, I'm looking forward to another Christopher Nolan flick. And it's an interesting movie. I will say right off the bat the same thing everyone else is saying about this movie. It's too long. 3 hours. 3 hours long. And I know what people are saying is like, oh, well, yeah, but, you know, Lord of the Rings, their movies were about 3 hours long. And I'm like, yeah, but those movies had a lot of action and a lot of things that could keep the excitement going. This movie has little action and a lot of talking. A lot of talking. And don't get me wrong, the dialogue is good. There's lots of good dialogue between the characters, good questions that are brought up and stuff like that. But at the end, I was actually bored. Near the end, I was like, oh, come on, just wrap up already. Now, in some ways, this movie, as I say, it kind of has two speeds. One is it's the talking and the debating and the what does this mean and how does this mean and why is this happening, stuff like that, which are all good questions, good psychological questions to bring up, and they're good, but there's a lot of it. And then sometimes just the movie, boom, straight up weird crap action going on, and it's awesome, and you're like on the edge of your seat, you're like, holy shoot. I wish I could have seen this on IMAX. Some people might be shocked by this, I've still never seen a movie in IMAX, and I was wanting to for this. I was actually planning on going to the city, it's about 2.5 hours away from my place, and just to see this on IMAX, but it was my brother's birthday, and so I didn't. But in any case, it's interesting when you see this with different people. Because, okay, let me just put how my family thought of it. My mom thought this movie was stupid. She thought it was silly. She thought it was boring. And you know what? That's the way she saw it. My sister-in-law saw it the same way. Chris, I don't know how he felt about it yet. My dad kind of had the feeling that it's probably not a bad movie, it's just most of the things are going over my head. And I think that's kind of going to be a lot for a lot of the movie-going audiences. It's going to go over your head. And The one thing I just got to mention, I don't know if this is other people's theater, but in our theater, it sucked because the music was louder than the people talking. There'd be people saying dialogue that is explaining things that have happened in the story, and the music's like da 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 or whatever. I don't know what the actual tune is, but it was blaring, and we could not hear. This was like the first time I've ever gone to a movie where my ears actually hurt after I left the theater. I'm like, oh man, they're still kind of ringing. And it's probably not the movie's fault, it's probably the theater's fault, the music's fault, whatever. But, that was a big problem for me in my enjoyment of this film. But I like the character, I like Coop. I don't remember any of the others, people's names, really, except for Coop and Murphy. Their relationship is good. I like how she's angry of him leaving her, but I wish that she kind of, eventually understood, they because of some time differential things in the movie, characters age and faster than the people on the ship. And I would think that when she's like a grown woman, you would think that she would come around to this thinking of, my dad left to save the world. Okay, I can understand. As a kid, I understand that you're going to be raging about stuff like that. You're going to be mad because your world, in your mind as a kid, it only revolves around you. And so you can't fully see the big picture. You can't see, he left to save the human race. You see, he left me. And that's how kids can see things. Fair enough. But we also have the fact that when we grow up, we get to see the big picture more clearly. And when she grows up, she's still bitter, and she's still mad at him, and she still won't ever send him any messages and whatnot. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that because it's like you're supposed to be a grown woman. You should know that he's gone up there to save the world. Her acting, the acting all around in this movie is good. There's no one that I thought was bad acting. Matthew McConaughey plays a really good everyman type character who is put in this very precarious situation. There's a lot of themes going on in this movie, and a lot of, I won't give it away, but there's something that happens in this movie that is so out there science fiction that it's so weird for Nolan. Because despite Nolan, he does have elements of science fiction in his movies, like the Dream Machine in Inception, or, the microwave emitter in Batman Begins, whatnot. He usually doesn't go full sci-fi, he goes medium sci-fi, medium realistic. And throughout most of it, it's mostly realistic with some talk of what's happening out there. Near the end, this goes full on sci-fi. And it's good, actually. It's kind of interesting, but it's also odd. I'm really confused, and it's kind of jarring for this movie that, for the most part, tries to treat everything with a realm of, pseudoscience, a realm of semi-realistic science with some more fantastic elements added to it. Then it goes full-on science fiction. I'm like, whoa, okay. This is a little bit of a jarring twist, but it does make sense. Like, it was set up that there were more of the fantastic things in this movie. This movie, its characters have the basics for characters. I wish, I wish that we got more characterization of, Cooper and Murph and whatnot, like who they are as people. We know that Cooper doesn't like farming, but he has to farm because it's the end of the world. We know that Murphy is a loudmouth and will say whatever she wants. And there's a lot of good themes about how they think that the society at this point thinks that humanity never actually went to the moon. There's a point where Murph got in trouble for sharing stories from a book about the moon landing. And then they say, oh no, we've corrected those books and to say how the moon landing was faked and everything. And Matthew McConaughey's just like, what? And I think it's a representative how humanity has lost their focus on where the world is and what the world was and what humanity was. And they're no longer living, they're just surviving. And it's really interesting in that regard. There's a lot of interesting themes going on, and it's just... There's a lot of stuff going on, but I don't know a whole lot about these guys as characters, you know? It's like, I wish I got more. So, for example, for Inception, we don't know too much about a lot of the side characters, but we do know about Cobb, you know? We do know, for Inception, what motivates Cobb and what his feelings are. We don't... It is something for his films where we don't get a lot of personal, like... Not just... we get personal stuff, but we don't get a whole lot of, you know, what's his favorite... color or something like that. You know, like, you don't get a whole bunch of stuff to relate to. And that kind of is a problem in this film, a little bit, because we see him... I want to relate to him a little bit more, and I can't. And I want to relate to Anne Hathaway. I want to know what's her story. All I know is that her dad was a scientist, and they work for NASA, and then she gets launched up into space. Okay, does she have any training? Why does she want to go on the... Or, like, what is her backstory? Stuff like that. But the movie is more focused on the spectacle and the questions. Now, is that bad? Not necessarily. It's, you know, it's one of these types of movies. Like, for example, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and which of this movie is going to be compared to a lot. I find that movie very boring, but I can understand why people call it one of the greatest movies ever. I can understand, but you don't really get to know any of the characters that well. They're just there to bring up the questions, and you don't really know that much about them other than their job, and maybe they have family back on Earth, or for some of the characters, and that's about it. But, you know, the movie's more focused on the spectacle and the questions and the psychological issues that are brought up, which this movie does too. There are some really, really good moments in this film, like the interstellar travel, going through the wormhole, the black hole. Some of these planets I wish could have been a little bit more creative, but I understand that they only go there for like a few seconds. Well, they only go down there for a little bit before they can establish whether the planet is habitable or not. So there's that. But then there's I don't know, there's a lot of questions that this movie brings up, and and they're really good questions, and the acting is really good, and the effects are amazing, and its pacing is so slow. And it's not bad if a movie's pacing is slow, as long as it can get you interested. And there are some times when I'm like, okay, I get that you're asking questions and that you're bringing up topics, but can I be a little bit more entertained by this? You know, I don't know. This is a type of movie where I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it. On one hand, I could say it's an amazing spectacle. It's got a whole bunch of different stuff going on, and a whole bunch of different characters bringing up these questions about humanity and their place in the universe, and the outside world, the influences, and how people reflect on love, and how love affects all of us in some way or another. There's questions like that it brings up. And on the end, those are good questions. And on the other hand, there are some great action scenes. And on the other hand, there are some of this stuff. And that's all good. And then it's also really slow. Really slow. And it's the type of movie where I'm not entirely sure if I'll know how I feel about it until it comes out on DVD. I think that in some ways, for some movies, you don't fully know how you feel about it until it comes out on DVD. For example, when X-Men Origins Wolverine came out, I kind of thought I liked it, and then it came out on DVD, and when it came to the point for me wanting to buy it, I'm like, no, I don't want to buy this. This movie is horrible. Yeah, it is horrible, and I just never wanted to admit it. Now, I don't think I'm going to ever say Interstellar is horrible. Like, this is a horror movie, I'm not even going to give it the time of day. Because it is smarter and does more things than any most regular science fiction... I shouldn't say than any science fiction epic, because there are a lot of science fiction epics that have done a lot of great things. But I'm thinking it has done... It is smarter than your run-of-the-mill, typical little science fiction action flick. But, for example, okay, does this movie bring up more psychological questions than X-Men Stage of Future Past? Yes. Is the acting, maybe higher quality? Maybe. I still like X-Men's Days of Future Past more. It was more fun, more exciting. You know, it might not have brought up a whole lot of psychological questions, but it was still, in my mind, more fun. And I think that there's a little bit lost in the fun on this side, you know? Nolan films typically have been pretty fun. I mean, they bring up a lot of questions and a lot of stuff, but then, like, Inception was a fun movie, okay? It had all these different themes underlining it and all this different stuff going on. If you want to see all the different stuff going on with Inception, just watch Leon Thomas's Renegade cut of it, or even Owen Citizen did a video on Inception. Those two guys did an amazing job of saying all the different underlining sub-themes of Inception. And there are stuff like that going on in this movie. It's missing out a little bit on the fun. And because of that, it's more on the boring side. And that's why I'm not even entirely sure if I'll buy this movie on DVD or not, because it's 3 hours long. And I don't know if I'll ever say, you know what, pop Interstellar in? Because, you know, let's just watch it. Like, this isn't going to be a movie that I'm going to say to my friends, you have to see Interstellar. Because I know a lot of this might just bore them. And I was kind of bored in it, even though I was trying to get invested into the psychological issues that are going into this movie. I think I'm repeating myself. I think I should just get to the point. The point is, the acting is good. There's a lot of questions being brought up. The special effects are amazing. It is boring in some parts. And some parts will leave you head scratching, like, what is this even trying to say? And I don't know. I don't necessarily know what it's trying to say. I think this is going to be one of those movies where I'm going to have to wait till I see it a second time before I really try to get an idea of what what Nolan is fully trying to say. But I'm not just going to give this movie a bad rating because I was bored in parts, because it does have, as I say, a whole lot more going on than your typical run-of-the-mill action, science fiction action flick. So, where does that leave me? Where does that leave me? I don't know. I don't know where that leaves me. I think that this is not going to be number 1 of my top 10 favorite movies of this year. Will it even make the top 10? I don't know. Like, I haven't ranked it out yet, so I don't know. Will this movie be getting Oscar buzz? Probably. Heck, if Christopher Nolan is nominated for Best Director, I'll be rooting for him. I'll be saying, yes, good. Go. I want him to win. But I'm not sure if that's because I'm a fan of this movie or if I'm just a fan of the director. That's where it's kind of leaving me behind at this. This is a really interesting movie for me to review, and it is, in some ways, left me not really knowing what to give it. If I give it anything below an 8, am I not giving it enough credit? Or if I give it anything higher, am I giving it too much credit because the movie didn't leave me as entertained as other movies of his? I don't know. I think in the end, I gotta give this a positive rating, obviously, but I'm not gonna give it a full high rating. Out of all of Christopher Nolan's films, I would say that this would be in the lower half. I'd probably rate it above Insomnia, and I haven't seen like his really earlier ones. But besides Insomnia, I think I like most of his other ones better. So in the end, I am going to give Interstellar a 7 out of 10. It is a good movie, and I stand by this rating because this is how I feel. This is how I feel, how there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie, a lot of themes, and it definitely makes it good. The acting is great, but it's missing that certain human element to make it more relatable and more fun, more entertaining. And, you know, I shouldn't have to see I don't want to see a movie and feel like I'm taking a test at school or something, you know? Not that I'm saying I don't want to think when it comes to movies. I do. But I want to also be entertained. So this movie is more on the thinking side, not enough on the entertaining side, which makes it a movie that I might watch maybe once, twice a year. No, I mean once every 2 years, because it's one of those experiences where it takes a lot to put into the film, and it might give a lot back, but it's hard to get invested. Anyway, I'm repeating myself. I'm done. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm LaserDude99, and see you around.
Be sure to check out more of my other videos on my channel, and wait for more coming soon.